Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Moon Griffon Show. My name is Blake Miguez. I'm going to be standing in for Moon today as the guest host. I'm here with Brandon Como. Now, Brandon, you're probably wondering, where's Moon? Why am I here? Let me tell you a funny story. So I got a call last night from the studio.
All right.
And he said, Blake, I need your help with something. I said, I'm happy to help. He said, we need you to stand in and host the Moon Griffon Show tomorrow. I said, well, where's Moon? He said, well, I can't get into all those details. I said, well, what makes me qualified to host a radio show? He said, well, Blake, if Moon Griffon can do it, anybody can do it.
Ain't that the truth, man? Ain't that the truth?
So he didn't get into many details, but here I am. He did mention one thing, that the maintenance problem here, the maintenance here at the building is a lot better because ever since we've had the Moon Griffon Show, there hadn't been any roaches in the building. So here I am. I'm very excited to host the show today. We've got a nice agenda in front of us. Today we're going to have Representative Lance Harris, the chairman of the House Republican delegation, as well as the new vice chairman of the House Republican delegation, Representative Tony Bacala, join us to talk a little bit about the budget. We'll also have Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser. He's going to talk about the Great American Seafood Cook-Off. And then we'll have a little bit more. I think we're going to also have Vice President of the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association, Gifford, Briggs. We're going to talk about jobs in oil and gas.
Awesome.
But is this the actual spot where Moon Griffon sits, Brandon?
That is where he sits, Blake.
Why is the computer screen so large? Does he have? He must have bad eyesight. I see here it says, Moon Griffon stapler, do not touch. So, okay, I won't touch that. And I see there's a little rating meter here. Every time I mention his name, so the ratings go down. But we won't get into that. But let's talk a little bit about the budget today, Brandon. You know, that's been a problem here ever since I've been elected 2.5 years ago. The state's been facing steep fiscal challenges, and being an appropriations member, I along with other members spend countless hours in and out of session listening to testimony from agencies and the public, and we use this information as appropriations members to decide how to prioritize state spending. One thing that I've noticed, Brandon, is anytime that you bring an elected official up, most of the time they always come up and testify of ways how they can make state government more efficient, how they can save money. But when you bring an appointed agency head, you always get excuses. You always hear about we need more money to provide the same government services. Doesn't matter what the revenue numbers look like. They'll always ask for more money. So I quickly learned, Brandon, Louisiana doesn't have a revenue problem. Louisiana clearly has a spending problem. If you look at the numbers, state effort spending, this is not including federal dollars, has grown an average of 3.9% annually over the last 14 years. Our national GDP is around 2% annually. Louisiana, it's much lower than that in some years. Most recently, with the oil and gas slowdown, we've had negative GDP. State government should never be allowed to grow faster than the private sector. You know, the Louisiana legislature, Brandon, says that each year we're constitutionally required to balance our budget. That's a good thing because we don't want to end up like the guys in Washington with a $19 trillion debt.
Exactly.
But whether you're for taxing or cutting your way to balance the budget, whether you're a Republican, Democrat, right side, left side, there will always be several $100 million of a gap if you don't solve this overarching problem of allowing state government to grow faster than the private sector. You'll always have a gap in the shortfall. Well, this past legislative session, the House Republican delegation proposed a common-sense solution to slowing the growth of government and starting to solve the fiscal looming cliff that approaches, about a $1.4 billion cliff. It meant a standstill budget, something that was common sense. It meant state government have to live with the same amount of revenue that they had last year, this year. The Revenue Estimating Conference, REC, has been wrong majority of the times over the last 10 years, as much as $400 million per year. So each year this means more mid-year cuts, which higher ed and healthcare have to bear the burden of. And agencies come and they testify to the fact that they don't want mid-year cuts because when that's the case, there's only a few months to plan. They can't amortize their budgets over 12 months, and most of the money's already been spent. Do you know what that means, Brandon? More taxes for tax requirements for taxpayers, and that's not a good thing. A standstill budget meant appropriating only 98% of the projected revenue estimates. This approach over 2 years would have cut the $1.4 billion looming fiscal cliff in half. I mean, $700 million, a shortfall, is a much easier number to deal with and would have shown good faith to the taxpayers in finding a solution to settle the remaining gap. Brandon, why would any legislator consider renewing more taxes to settle the state's fiscal cliff when state spending hasn't slowed down one bit? Budget reform and spending cuts must be addressed first before having the conversation about more revenue. It's clear. Why should the taxpayers be asked to cut their budget just so state government shouldn't have to cut its budget? Everyone in Baton Rouge needs to understand that this money doesn't belong to them. The money is yours, the taxpayers, and it should be spent in the most efficient an effective way possible. Brandon, where do we go from here? Well, we're going to have that discussion a little bit later on. We're going to bring on some fellow legislators from the House Appropriations members as well. Representative Lance Harris and Tony Bacala will be joining us shortly on the next segment. So where do we go from here, Brandon?
It's a good question.
Just something else I'd like to mention before we get to break. Capital outlay dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I represent the area of Vermilion and Iberia Parish. Unfortunately, Vermilion Parish hasn't seen much any of capital outlay dollars in the last 2 years. And why is that? Because the Vermilion Parish delegation hadn't voted for raising people's taxes.
Mm-hmm.
I was happy. I voted against more taxes in my first 2 years than I ever thought in my entire career.
Right.
If I had to do it again, I would do it again. Unfortunately, Governor John Bel Edwards has put politics over priorities. We had some major fun events in last August.
Mm-hmm.
And what type of funding was cut in Vermilion Parish? Projects for drainage improvements. The city of Abbeville, Maurice, Kaplan, the list goes on and on. It just shows you the kind of things that we have to deal with on a daily basis here there in Baton Rouge. It's politics. Unfortunately, you can't take politics out the game, Brandon.
So I want to ask you, are too many of our legislators temporary minded as far as, trying to maybe not necessarily fix the problem of the moment, but trying to make the problem of the moment go away, as opposed to when you talk about a standstill budget, to me, that tells you that, yeah, in the moment right now, you're saving money, but you're saving money for the future. And you've talked about the problems not going away. So if you're saving for the future, as opposed to what they did, where they took all the money and put it into one area, using 100% of the budget, and then even using some of the Medicaid dollars that would go over into the next month of that fiscal year. So do we have just too many temporary-minded politicians in Baton Rouge right now?
Oh, it's when you're looking at this fiscal shortfall and you have a timeline to settle the shortfall in, you always think about, well, that's the looming issue right in front of me. I have to figure out a way to solve this shortfall. But you can't tax your way to prosperity, Brandon.
Right.
You have to think, if you want, state government can have all the revenue in the world that they want, but they have to look at things long term. We have to spur out our economy. Now, the oil and gas slowdown was one of the main reasons why we fight these fiscal issues today. It's not just severance tax. If you look at our severance tax, every dollar in the price of oil that goes down results in about $12 or $13 million annually for the state's budget. But it's not just severance tax, Brandon. It's also income tax, sales tax. When these people lose their jobs, they don't have any money to spend and not paying personal income taxes. So when you're looking at, we talk about tax reform. My version and my definition of tax reform and maybe the governor's definition of tax reform are two very different things. For me, I want to spur the coffers of the state revenue by stimulating more economy, more business, more investment in the state. And the state government have all the money it ever needs. But we can't simply just look at it on a short-term basis, go back to the taxpayers and ask them to pay more money. We live in the Acadiana area. Right now, oil and gas is slow. They're having trouble just making their rent and putting food on the table. Why should we ask them for more tax dollars? Let's figure out ways for a stable tax structure, one that's certain for business. Let's clean up this litigious environment that we have so people want to invest again in the state of Louisiana. Let's see how we can put less burdensome regulations on business. If you spur the business, you spur the economies, people go back to work, a lot of these problems solve themselves, Brandon.
Yep. All right, we got to go ahead and take a break right now.
Back at we'll have next joining us is Representative Lance Harris, chairman of the House Republican delegation, and we'll also have Representative Tony Bacala later on. And we're going to talk a little bit more about the budget and get their perspective. Welcome back to the Moon Griffon Show. And guest host today, Blake Miguez, standing in with Brandon Como. Brandon, Moon Griffon. Every time I say his name, the ratings sort of go down. The studio owner said I can do what I need to do on the show today. I think we ought to rename the name of the show.
Okay.
We ought to rename it the Brandon Como Show.
I like the sound of that.
You like, I've always mentioned that you had a face for TV and Moon didn't. But we're gonna take your career to the next level here.
Okay.
So on the line we have is Representative Lance Harris. He's the chairman of the House Republican delegation. Lance, are you there?
I'm here, Blake. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well. How's it feel to be on the brand new inaugural show for the Brandon Como Show? No longer the Moon Griffon Show.
Well, it's a pleasure, I can tell you.
Well, Moon decided not to show up for work today, so we decided to rename his show. Oh, well.
Well, that's right. Brandon deserves it, too. He keeps that thing rolling,
That's right. It's all You got to give a plus up to Brandon as a staff member. How have things been since session, Lance? I mean, it's been out for about 6
good.
weeks.
I tell you, I've been, of course, having to work in my private life, but I'm encouraged by going around the state, visiting with people, and talking to various groups and associations that took notice of what we tried to do that last session and have gotten a whole lot of positive feedback. They're kind of a little disappointed that we weren't able to get our plan through at the last, during that last session. But it's been a lot of positive feedback, and I'm very, very pleased with that.
Now most people don't realize, but and Lance, you're an incredible piano player, aren't you?
I don't know about incredible,
if I had to place you, would you consider yourself more of a? I've heard you play more of a Beethoven, a Jerry Lee Lewis. Where would you put yourself?
I'd put probably in the middle of that.
More like Ray Charles, maybe.
Yeah, more like a guy that majored in that in college, hadn't practiced since, and still plays like a beginner. So.
Okay, Elton John, we got you. So I got you piano skills pegged. So Lance, when session ended, I was driving home. I didn't even get home yet, and the governor was already immediately telling House members that he wasn't going to call another special session unless the House came forth with a plan to fix the fiscal cliff. How did that strike you? What was your reaction to that? I know that sort of was surprising to me because hasn't the House and the appropriations members been working on this plan for a long time now?
We have, and I tell you, I was kind of taken aback by those comments because everybody has to keep working, but we have to bear in mind that we had a plan, and had our plan been voted out of the House and the Senate accepted it, where we were spending, I think at the end, 98% roughly of the the estimated amount of revenue, we would have actually cut that fiscal cliff year in half.
So we're talking about taking the $1.4-ish billion budget shortfall down to about $750 million.
That's right, which is a much easier number to deal with. But because now we've appropriated it all, and the governor has signed this HB 1, I'm pretty sure we'll have a mid-year cut because we've had $3.8 billion worth of deficit since 2009, average about over $400 million a year, by doing the same old crazy thing every year by appropriating 100% of an estimate. So we're going to probably see that again, which will make that fiscal cliff even worse. And bear in mind that the HB 1 that was voted and signed by the governor actually kicked the $150 million Medicaid provider payment into the fiscal cliff year. So you have to add that on to the fiscal cliff also.
So we know REC's been wrong for the last 10 years, up to $400 million a year. They're wrong every year, for most of the years. What makes the governor or the administration think this next year is going to be any different?
I can't answer that because I think we had the perfect plan. I think by spending basically the same amount of money on June, what we were spending June 30th of this year for a year, starting July the 1st, why can't the state of Louisiana spend that same amount with just a small enhancement?
No one has a perfect plan to fix the problems. Everyone has their own opinion, but at least it was a start of a good faith conversation. Don't the voters back home, the taxpayers, want to know that we as legislators did everything that we could to control government spending before ever going back and asking for more revenue? I mean, if you're looking at a standstill budget and you would have cut that number in half, immediately that meant that you don't have to renew half of the temporary taxes that were put on the books in the previous sessions, right?
Right. I mean, it gives you a whole lot of other options because then you have time to look through some tax credits and exemptions. You have a whole lot of things that you can look at. Now what you'll see is when we have a mid-year cut or deficit, and then it makes the fiscal cliff worse, you're going to hear from the press, from everybody, you got to raise taxes, you got to raise taxes, you got to raise taxes. So, I think that's what some people want to hear. So,
Lance, I'm going to read a Shreveport Times article here, just a few out of it recently. Edwards has blamed House Republicans as a culprit for not acting to address the fiscal cliff during the most recent legislative session. The governor sent a letter to House Speaker Taylor Barra last week asking he and Republicans to come up with a plan that can pass the House. If you remain unwilling to undertake comprehensive budget and tax reform, please identify your plan to solve the looming fiscal cliff. Governor Edwards. Now tell me this. There's been a lot of plans offered. There's just not a lot of plans that the governor likes. I mean, I think the conversation piece is that House Republicans want to talk about budget reform and spending cuts, and the governor wants to talk about increased revenue and increased taxes. How do you take those two polar opposite views and put them together and find some type of middle road and compromise?
Well, it's difficult, but I've seen it happen before, and I think that this is an opportunity. Hopefully, when we get back in session, whether it's regular or special, that we'll come up with some compromise to get this done. But look, back to my point, we had a very detailed plan, very detailed. And you have to remember that the governor came out with a cat tax 3 weeks before session, which blew the HCR 11 report out. I mean, and so that just took everything off track and took all the air out of the room when it came to any kind of tax reform, in my opinion. Okay, so then we were left with the spending reform, one of our pieces of our plan. And bear in mind also that the Republican delegation members worked in small groups starting way after the last session, before this previous session. So we have worked through this problem. We had 500 pages of tax reform information that we had gone through, and we looked at the spending reform, and I think came up with a good plan. So it's unfortunate that the governor says now he hasn't accepted any of our plans. Now come up with another one.
Well, Lance, it's important to point out that we are the legislature. We're appropriators. We appropriate a specific amount of money, and state government has to live within that specific amount of money. We are not administrators of the law. That is the executive branch and the governor's duties. He is basically, in business terms, the CEO of our state. So it's great that he wants a plan from us, but really it's his role to be a leader and lead. Because if we try to micromanage his job, that just creates more problems for us. They complain if you micromanage, they complain if you're too broad. But we've got to go to break, Lance. If you can stick with us, we're going to bring on another one of your colleagues, Representative Tony Bacala, the vice chair of the House Republican delegation, newly elected. See you after the break.
The front door, oh boy.
Hello, listeners. Welcome back to the Moon Griffon, the Brandon Como Show, hosted by myself, guest host Blake Miguez. We've renamed the show. It's no longer the Moon Griffon Show. Moon didn't show up to work today. On the line with us right now is Representative Lance Harris, the chairman of the House Republican delegation. And we also have Representative Tony Bacala, the newly elected vice chairman of the House delegation. Lance, I've got one follow-up question for you from the last segment. As the chairman of the House Republican delegation, how tough is it to keep a majority of the members together? I mean, you're talking about roughly 60 members. That's got to be a job on a daily basis, right?
Right, it is. It's 61 members, and look, it's not. You don't have any real good tools in your toolbox except for persuasion. And nowadays, the way the House is run, it's somebody. It can't do like sometimes happens in the Senate. Say, I want you to vote this way, or or X. So we have to do a very good job of persuading people. That means you have to have details about what direction you're going, and you have to really. Another thing that helps get the grassroots Republicans in those districts to help you, as long as it's a Republican deal, and that's how it is.
And you're not
conversations.
And you're not allowed to bring your piano to the Capitol, so you can't woo them with that, right?
No, but sometimes I wish I could bring a club with me, but they throw me out.
So, Lance, tell me, during this whole process, the last couple of sessions, I sense that the Republican Party, the Republican delegation was very unified in these meetings. And, there was a big loss, by one vote, we lost the standstill budget. I say we, the majority of the House Republican delegation. Is the fight over? How well unified currently is the House delegation? What's your feel?
Oh, I think we're unified. Look, you're not going to win every vote, and I think anybody that knows that, and anybody that came up to me after we lost that vote, I said, look, don't take this personally. This is just the first volley. I'm certainly not going to go back down to Baton Rouge and leave my principles here in Alexandria or my philosophies. I'm going to fight for those philosophies and those Republican ideas and those conservative ideas, and I'm going to do that again when we start back up. There's no question about it, and you just basically build off the momentum that you have, and that we did last session, and you try to make it go that right direction. But you're absolutely right. I think we were very unified, and you're not going to win every time. There's a lot. It's a very difficult
Lance,
process, but it set a good foundation for us.
Lance, the taxpayers thank you for being a defender of their wallet, and everyone here in the delegation thanks you for all your hard work. Now, I hear you're going to get a little bit of help. We've got a newly elected vice chairman, a freshman member, Representative Tony Bacala. Tony, you there?
I am. Good morning, Blake.
Good morning. Congrats on being elected, your new election to the vice chairmanship.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to the challenge. We have, we've done a lot of good things, and Lance has been a great leader, and I'm looking forward to doing what I can to help him, as he said, in persuading people, maybe to unify.
So Tony, you're known for being a staunch conservative member of the legislature, and congratulations. That's something to be very proud of, living in what I consider a conservative red state. Now, do you think the election as vice chair sent a message to the administration that the House is still very conservative, even though the governor may not be?
Well, I'm sure that I've spoken to some of the fourth floor, and of course they're congratulatory as well. But certainly, I think it does speak to the fact that the majority of the Republican delegation still feels strongly conservative and want conservative leadership.
Lance, you have any comments on that? Do you think any message was sent to the administration with this election?
Look, we had two conservatives run for that position. I mean, and so
that's right. That's right. We didn't have no moderates really even tried to run for the seat, right?
Right. So I mean, it was pretty much everybody voted in that election. So I would say that pretty well sums it up. It is still very conservative House delegation.
Now, Tony, during the campaign for your vice chairmanship, I walked around. I heard from a lot of different members, a lot of senior members, saying that they were interested in seeing freshman members have some input into the delegation, come to the table, and work hard for what's in the best interest for the future of Louisiana. With term limits now, you blink your eyes and your tenure in the legislature is gone. Do you think that helped you being a freshman member with your election? I know you ran against a more senior member.
I do. I think that people recognize that leadership is something you develop for the future, and certainly, look, again, Lance is doing a great job of running the delegation, and I think they're looking to make sure that continues. So I do believe that has a factor that's played into it. Yes, I do believe.
So you're ready and willing to assist Lance in fiscal responsible and conservative policymaking.
I am. I think, and listen, right now I'm working toward that goal. We've had some meetings already last week. I have some meetings set up this week, and it's just trying to come up with ideas. Certainly we don't set the agenda, but maybe we throw ideas out there that we can all consider and try to get behind, unify behind some ideas.
Now, Tony, I want to get to know you a little bit better, or the listeners get to know you. We know that Lance comes from a business background. My understanding is you have some type of law enforcement background. Can you tell the listeners a little bit about what you did before the legislature?
Well, before the legislature, I spent 37 and a half years working at the sheriff's office in Ascension Parish, which is just 20 miles from downtown Baton Rouge. The last 15 of those were as chief deputy, so I ran a budget, certainly much smaller than state budget, but I was responsible for a $30 million budget, and I was responsible for...
Now you're responsible for a $30 billion budget because you are a House Appropriations
Yeah,
member.
It went up a few zeros, but it's basically the same concept. Let me tell you, we lived within our means at the sheriff's office when I worked there. We knew what our revenue was going to be. We always budgeted very conservatively. As a result, we saved money every year, and we're able to complete capital projects with money that we had in the bank. We never had to borrow.
So you treated the money like it was your own money. It's not. You didn't treat it like it was OPM, other people's money. So I've got a question for both of you guys. Do you think the rate at which state government has been growing compared to the private sector is sustainable? Early on the show, we talked about how state government has outpaced the private sector, sometimes 2 to 3 to 1. No matter if you're for taxing or for cutting your way to settle the budget shortfall, you're always going to continue to have a shortfall. So is that sustainable? Would you run your household or your business that way?
Well, this Lance, I don't think it's sustainable. I give you an example. Since this administration came in, and I'm talking about legislature and governor. Look, the first year, total means of finance is up 15%. This year, 6%. So that's spending. That's $5 billion added to our budget in just 2 years.
Now, Lance,
And,
the other side they'll tell you, well, we're trying to match federal funds and pull down federal funds, and that's all great because we want to try to capture as many federal dollars as we can. But if you keep that mindset, wouldn't you just take all the state general fund and just match and just put it all towards spend billions of dollars to continue to draw down federal funds? I mean, at some point you have to draw a line in the sand. When is enough enough? That's not fiscal responsibility.
Right. And look, state effort's up this year, 3.3%, state general fund, but state effort is $1 billion more in just 2 years. We can't survive that on that trajectory as an economy. We just can't do it.
So, guys, where do we go from here? The standstill budget failed to pass the recent legislative session. Does the governor get his way and raise personal and business income tax? Is the budget fight over? How do you see the $1.2 to $1.4 billion fiscal cliff being solved? Tony, Lance?
Well, I'll jump in on that one if you don't mind, Blake. If the reality of the legislature is it takes 2/3 vote, a supermajority, to raise the tax. It only takes 53 votes, a simple majority, to create the standstill budget. So it's going to be much more difficult, I think, the second time around to raise taxes. A lot of people who voted for the temporary are not seem to be not willing to vote for the permanency of those taxes. And so I think we're going to have to face the reality that regardless of what side you sit on, I think the reality is going to be that the likelihood of again, increase in taxes or maintaining that level are starting to diminish. So we better have a plan in place, and we better know what we're going to do. I think we had a good start on that last year. It just didn't quite make it. One vote difference. So we're not dead in the water. We didn't lose by a landslide.
Tony, I've got constituents in my district walking around with both hands on their wallet trying to protect it because it seems like the state government just keeps trying to grab more and more tax dollars from them. Can they sleep good at night here, or are we going to continue to have all these discussions in the coming legislative sessions, in particular the fiscal session? I mean, what's in store for the taxpayers of Louisiana? Are they going to have to pay more going forward? And are you guys planning on supporting any of those tax increases?
Well, I can only speak for myself. I'm looking at, I think we need to take a close look at the cuts that we can make and some other efficiencies that we can implement. We can save money in big ways just by making some adjustments, but unfortunately, every time you want to cut a dollar, somebody's going to fight you because they want that dollar. So there's going to be a battle every inch. We're going to have to fight for, claw for, to get the state government back in line. But Lance used an interesting term, and it's one that we hear often in our meetings, and that's the trajectory of state spending. I mean, just keep in mind, between 2009 and 2016-17, the LDH, the Department of Health spending, went up 51% total. That's including federal. They went up 155% in state spending. At the same time, state government everywhere else is falling.
Yes,
We're having a hard time.
Tony, it's a
and we can't
it's a challenging job, and we appreciate you guys' service and y'all willingness to serve the great state of Louisiana. And we're going to go to break here. On the line, we have Representative Lance Harris and Representative Tony Bacala of the Louisiana House of Representatives. We'll take y'all back after the break.
Rising sun.
Hey, welcome back to the Moon Griffon Show. Excuse me, the Brandon Como Show, now just renamed the Moon Griffon Show. He decided not to show up to work today. So we have myself, guest host, Representative Blake Miguez. On the line, I have Representative Lance Harris, the chairman of the House Republican delegation, and the newly elected vice chair, Representative Tony Bacala. Tony, before the break, you were making a point about LDH. You want to go ahead and finish that point for us?
Yeah, it's really easy. It's, from between 2009 and 2016, our Department of Health spending, the state spending, has gone up 155%, and it continues to rise at that pace. So unless we can control that, we're going to be coming back to the voters every year and say we need more money. So we have to do something there. That's just the point I was trying to make.
We appreciate that point. Lance, okay, so ease the voters and the taxpayers' mind. The governor said we need to solve a plan. I know the House Republican delegation has been working very hard for some time now. What type of work is happening now to solve these fiscal problems?
Well, we've got under the leadership of Greg Miller, our policy committee is already formulating working groups, and we're discussing that stuff. And the executive committee will be meeting next month, and then we'll start our regional meetings with our members. We'll talk to every single one of our members, find out exactly what direction of thought they are thinking, and then our working groups will go be busy just like we did before last session. We'll meet on a weekly basis, either by phone or in person, and we will come up with some solutions, and we will come up with some ideas that we think are viable and that will pass. And that's what we're going to work overtime to do before the next session, and if there is a special before that.
So, guys, one last question, and this is a tough one. And, Lance, I'll let you go first. Do you have any idea where Moon Griffon is today?
I have no idea, but I tell you what, my farm manager called. We got a 29-acre pond out at the farm out here south of Alexandria, and said some guy was out there illegally fishing.
Was he tall?
When I went and looked at the videotape, it looked like Moon Griffon.
Was he tall and ugly and kind of walking around the
Yeah, but he left before the sheriff's department showed up.
That may be Moon. Brandon, can you take a note of that?
Yeah.
Tony, do you have any idea where Moon may be today? Because I don't.
Well, I'm from Baton Rouge, right? Baton Rouge area, outside
right.
Baton Rouge. Who the heck is Moon Griffon? And what mama would name their child Moon?
You make a very good point, Brandon. You see what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
You are the new face of the show. Well, guys, look, I appreciate y'all taking the time to come on the show. Thank y'all so much for y'all service to the state. Keep working hard, and I look forward to working with you guys on the appropriations as well as other issues to solve the state's problems. Thank y'all so much. I appreciate having y'all.
Thank you. See y'all later.
So, Brandon, I think we got a caller. Let's take a caller.
Yes, we do.
Go ahead, put him through.
We got Mike on the road on the Hickson Hazard Hotline. Again, if you want to get in on the Hickson Hazard Hotline, it's 1-844-7-MOON-07. That's 1-844-766-6607. So Mike on the road wants to talk with you about the budget.
Mike, how you doing? This is Blake Miguez on the Brandon Como Show, the old Moon Griffon Show. What's going on today?
Hey, Blake. Blake, I'm a councilman from a small city here in Louisiana, and we pretty much cut our budget to the bone, as I think most other municipalities have. And what I find almost laughable is we talk about spending money that we have to double because we're getting this federal funding, and they're broker than anybody. They're $20 trillion in debt, and they're supposed to be spending money that the state that doesn't have any money is matching. When will the adults stand up and say, it's time we cut this budget, national, state, and cities? I mean, I find it almost ludicrous that we're in this discussion.
I agree, Mike. And I want to thank you for doing right to the taxpayers' dollars in your local area and running like your household or a business. And you're right. And one of the things that sort of disappointed me on the state level was not only are we spending too much money, we're spending money that will never get in. REC as always comes in $400 million short, and we're spending money we don't have. How can you do that? And you talk with the I'll take for example the guys that run all the classified employees, and let's ask them, how many people have you guys laid off? How many people work for you? Oh, about 30,000. That's about half the state employees. How many have y'all laid off? Well, we've had about 10 leave. Have you seen the private sector? Half the workforce is gone. They've had to lay off tremendous amounts of people. State government is asking you, the taxpayer, to cut your budget just so they don't have to cut theirs. And I have a real problem with that.
I agree. I know two big boat companies. One has cut their entire staff. They're basically staffless, and one has about 5 left. And the federal government and state government is just anyway, guys, I appreciate y'all doing anything y'all can to be conservative. Thank you so much,
Mike. We appreciate it. So, Brandon, guess what?
What?
I figured out Moon's password to his computer.
Nice.
Who would have ever thought to say, my hero, Hilario?
Yeah.
I got into his email, his fan email. Do I have a little time? Can I read some of this stuff?
Oh, yeah. We've got about 3 minutes.
Okay. Dear Moon. Okay, keep giving Baton Rouge establishment hell. Good job on the show. That's from Irving from Iberia Parish. A big thank you from Moon Griffon. Here's another one. Brian from St. Martin Parish. Dear Moon, you are selling a book of lies. Governor Edwards is a conservative. Haven't you seen the campaign commercials? Republicans for Edwards live on. Republicans for Edwards. Those are hard to find these days. You could probably fit them all in the elevator. Here's another one. Dear Moon, I'm so proud of you. For not making better than a C- in my class, you sure turned out well. Your second grade English teacher Miss Broussard.
Moon Griffon defying the odds.
And Moon Griffon was never known for being the sharpest tool in the shed.
Yeah.
Okay, one more. Let's scroll down. Here, this one looks interesting. Dear Moon, I hope you have found it in your heart after all these years to forgive me. She really spoke highly of you over the short time that we spent together. I think we should be friends again. Hey, look at the bright side. We are both registered independents now. After all these years, I knew you would eventually find something to agree with me on. Signed, Pretty Boy Troy. Who is that?
Pretty Boy Troy Bear.
Look, let's have a little fun on the show today, Brandon. I'm in the mood. Let's surprise call a legislator.
All right, so
Here's his cell phone number. Representative John Stefanski from Crowley.
Okay.
Freshman. Now, if you're a Stefanski or a Zonbreaker out there, don't tell him that we're calling. Go ahead. There's the number. I won't give the... It's going to be funny, Brandon. Don't tell him.
Hello, this is John.
Hey, John, what's up, man? It's Blake.
Hey, Blake, what's going on, man? What you up to, dude?
Not too much. How things been going since session, man? Hadn't talked to you in a little while.
Oh, man, just kissing babies and shaking hands. That's what we do,
I'm doing the same thing, man. It's been busy with my, trying to catch up with my family and the business. Are you going to Edwin's 90th birthday party?
I will not be going to Edwin's 90th birthday party. Are you? I figured you'd have your ticket ready.
It's $250 a person, I believe. It's kind of a little rough for me on a state representative salary. Hey, you got. I know you practicing law right now. You got a second to talk? I got something serious.
Always got a second for you, Blake. What's up, man?
I mean, you really have a second though, like for the people of Louisiana?
Of course, anytime.
Well, look,
that's why we did this.
Let me cut you off. So I got you on the radio, on the air right now. Remember Moon Griffon, that tall, ugly guy that used to host that radio show in Lafayette?
I went on Moon Show a couple times.
He didn't show up for work today. You're on the air right now. It's now called the Brandon Como Show, hosted by Representative Blake Miguez. And we're so happy to have you on the show,
serious?
man. Yeah, you are on the air. All that was on the air, so thank you for not saying anything inappropriate. Can I ask you some questions? Seriously, you got some time for us?
Absolutely, Blake. What's up?
Okay, so you're one of the...
Yeah, we got to go. We got to cut the conversation short. We're running short on time.
Oh, no problem.
Let's take him back after the segment.
All right.
Hello, everyone. This is Blake Miguez, host of the Brandon Como Show, once the Moon Griffon Show, but no more because he didn't show up to work today. We have on the line John Stefanski. John, I apologize for cutting you off so quick, but I got Les Miles coaching me over here. Not good
no, man, I appreciate it. You let me catch my breath a little after catching me off guard.
I really wanted to catch you off guard. I know you. How long have you been elected? You pretty.
Let's see. I got elected on March the 25th, so just a couple months now.
Okay, and you're from Crowley, right?
Crowley, Louisiana. Yep, Rice capital.
Okay, I heard you had a pretty tough special election, and my understanding is the governor of the great state of Louisiana, Governor John Bel Edwards, did not support you. He supported the other guy, right?
Well, that happens in elections. It was a tough race. Two guys, both from Crowley. My opponent was a real nice guy, great person, great family. I was lucky enough to come out on top.
But that's got to motivate you to work pretty hard in your race when the governor's against you. I mean, it's one of the most powerful governors in the whole nation.
Well, it sets the tone. You're certainly right, Blake. It does set the tone right off the bat. So, but I was sent to Baton Rouge to do what this area wants, and that's what I'm going to do.
Look, I'll give you props. You beat the governor of the state of Louisiana, but can you beat him on the budget? That's going to be an even tougher fight. But
you're right.
The word on the street.
It was disappointing, Blake. It really was, and I think we're really going to wish we had that $200 million come $1.4 billion time.
I think so too. The word on the street is it got a little bit of criticism now on you, and I'm asking you a tough question. They're saying they're upset because you didn't author any bills.
I missed the cutoff. I got in so late. It was I didn't have a chance to file one this year, but I look forward to filing some next year.
I thought you might have been trying to avoid the hazing process on the floor, but look.
The hazing process is pretty funny, and I actually I'm not saying I'm looking forward to it, but it's certainly not scaring me off from filing any bills.
Look, more power to you. I think we got too many laws in the books as it is. We need to deal with the money we got and deal with the laws that we have and try to make the state a better place.
I agree. That's what people care about, and that's the problem. The budget's the problem. We need to manage spending in this state.
So I don't have a lot of time with your representative, John Stefanski. We've got the lieutenant governor coming on, but I got a few points that I want to make about you. I did get a chance to read some of your campaign material. I've listened to a few of your campaign speeches along the way when I was in Crowley and some other places in your district. And I noticed that you ran on sort of a conservative anti-tax platform. And it's my understanding you didn't vote for any taxes while you were there, right?
No, I didn't vote for a single tax, and even the small things like, adding a few cents on our cell phone bills, I still refuse to vote on that because, I believe if you run on something, you need to follow through with it. And I think no taxes is clearly why I was sent up here. The
taxpayers thank you. I think your constituents will be proud that they kind of got what they voted for. That's what a lot of people want.
I hope so.
Is there anything you want to add on to the show? If we got a few seconds.
No, it's been a great experience. It is always an honor to represent an area that you grew up in. I was born and raised in Crowley and the surrounding area, Acadia Parish, and to be able to go up to Baton Rouge and represent that is really it's an honor, and I don't take that lightly. I'm going to fight for our area to make sure we have what we need.
Well, thank you so much for wanting to serve, and I can tell you this much: I got elected when I was 25, 2.5 years ago, and I'm 35 today. So get you old quick and you get some gray hairs. But one last serious question now. Do you have any idea where Moon Griffon is today?
It's funny that you say that. As I was driving to work this morning, I passed the Thibodeau Brothers Farms. And, Blake, it's rice, rice harvesting season. We're cutting rice right now. I saw this tall, gangly-looking guy, and now that you say it, I think that was Moon climbing in a combine this morning.
Was he ugly?
The craziest thing.
Was it a tall, ugly guy?
Well, it was far now, Blake. It was far. I'm not gonna cut him like that.
Because it might have been him, because it's starting to sound like him. But look, John, we appreciate having you on the show. Keep working hard for the people in your district. Tell everybody in Crowley I said hello, and we got the Lieutenant Governor coming on next, Billy Nungesser.
Thank you, my pleasure, Blake.
Thank you so much. All right, Billy, Mr. Lieutenant Governor, how you doing today?
Good. I'd have to bet Moon's out fishing somewhere if I was putting money on it.
Oh, man. Moon Griffon. He had a good run while he was at it, but, we got the Brandon Como show going now, and I'm the host, Blake Miguez, and we're looking forward to a vibrant future together here. But, oh, yeah.
Hey, listen, John, it's not always bad not to file bills. I agree with you. There's too many laws on the books to keep up with.
That's right, Mr. Lieutenant Governor. Look, now you came on. We're going to talk a little bit about the Great American Seafood Cook-Off. Now, what exactly is that?
Well, what we do each year is we invite chefs from all over the country to compete in conjunction with the Louisiana Restaurant Association show in New Orleans at the Convention Center and pick the best chef, king or queen of seafood, to promote domestic seafood in America. We're always fighting those imports of crawfish and shrimp, and in Louisiana, it gives us an opportunity to reach out to other states and show the value of our domestic seafood. So it's a great opportunity for us.
Is this a relatively new event? How many years has this been going on for?
No, it's been going on for about 10 years now. We've kind of kicked it up a notch. This year, we moved the cook-off to Lafayette. Mm-hmm. We figured we're trying to help with the downturn in the oil field to do more events in that area to fill the hotel rooms, put people out eating in the restaurants. And we partnered with Eat Lafayette, and we had over 2,000 people at the Cajun Dome, where the first ever queen of seafood was crowned. Bonnie Bro, St. John Restaurant, St. Martinville won the crown.
We appreciate all the help you can give us down here, Billy. We've got 15,000, 20,000 people been laid off in the oil and gas industry, and a few of those jobs are coming back, but they're not coming back quick enough, so we sure could use the economy spur. Tell me.
I want to get with you and talk to you. I just came back from Maine, and where they're raising salmon, and they're working closely with the commercial, recreational, and they're shipping this salmon all over the world. And the federal government put out some permits to raise fish in the Gulf that haven't been exercised yet. And I think it may be an opportunity for us, done the right way, to get into this fish farm in a large way and put a lot of the offshore people back to work, and also utilize some of those rigs or platforms for raising fish. It's been talked about for years, but they're doing it in Maine successfully, and that's for another day.
That's a very interesting concept. If Moon ever comes back to work, that's something y'all need to discuss. Maybe we can have you back on the show. So tell me, how many chefs are competing in this deal? There's some kind of title for the king and queen of the American seafood. What does all that mean? How many chefs are competing? I mean, where are these guys coming from? Is it all Louisiana chefs?
No, it's going to be, we got Alaska, Florida, Indiana, Massachusetts, Mississippi, Missouri, New Hampshire, New Mexico, and there'll be 13 competing alongside our Queen of Seafood here in Louisiana. And the winner will be able to have the bragging rights of King or Queen of Seafood. Last year it was won by Mississippi, but we checked the DNA on the shrimp, and I think they use Louisiana shrimp.
Now, tell me this. Speaking of Louisiana, you know, Trump's always talking about made in America. Well, I like to talk about made in Louisiana. Is all the seafood you're in the competition going to come from Louisiana?
Well, because each state can bring or ship in their favorite seafood from their home state. Like I'm sure up on the East Coast, they'll be bringing salmon or whatever, you know, is their preferred seafood. So because the chefs are from all over the country, this is an opportunity to gain support. I wrote every lieutenant governor and asked them to send a chef because I want their support as we fight these imports from around the world. We're starting to gain, and through this competition, we're gaining support with other states to fight these imports that flood our market.
Well, look, Billy, we're coming up to a break, but I want to tell everybody and all the listeners we have on the phone Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser. He's talking about the Great American Seafood Cook-Off, and we'll have him back after the break to tell us a little more.
When I find myself in times of trouble, Mother Mary comes to me, speaking words of wisdom, let it be.
Welcome back to the Brandon Como Show, hosted by guest host Representative Blake Miguez. This once used to be called the Moon Griffon Show, but Moon Griffon's all over the place today, but he's not here in the studio.
Can I say there's already been an improvement? Because during that last music right there, Moon would have started singing Let It Be and just butchered a classic.
He's not the kind of guy you want to go on a long road trip with. Oh. Now, Brandon and I have been working on something while on break. We reached out to our local milk manufacturer, and we see if we could put Moon's picture on the milk cartons and to try to find them. And they told us, no, look, we're in the business of making money. We got to sell milk. We're not in the pest control business. So we're scaring roaches away. So who we have on the line right now is, again, Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser, who's talking about the American Seafood Cook-Off. Now, Billy, there's two kind of people in Louisiana. There's cooks and there's Cajun eaters. I'm a Cajun eater. Tell me, what is your favorite dish, personally, of seafood?
Cool. Well,
I like them all.
I love shrimp. I love everything, but I could eat shrimp jambalaya all day.
Yeah. Ooh, that's the thing.
And I grew up jambalaya all the time, and so I love shrimp and jambalaya.
You're making me hungry.
But I eat. Man, look, you saw the size of me. I eat everything.
You know what I had this weekend, Billy? Some fried soft shell crabs. Man, that's some good stuff.
That's one of my favorite too.
Then I was in my district.
Stay away from the fried fish. I live longer, but
I was in my district and I had some shrimp spaghetti with some crab claws mixed in there. That's a little bit of home cooking there.
You know what I'm learning as we go around the country promoting Louisiana, and we just got back from Quebec, where we signed the Francophone agreement, and 40% of our international visitors plus come from Canada. We're actually was given a free office up there to work with the Acadian area to bring more visitors down from Canada, and I'm real excited about the mayor up there. Loves the way we promote the French heritage, but
now, Billy,
they love the way we cook food, not just the taste. We make a party and an event out of a meal, and they're really the Canadians love that.
Oh, we got
so
great
I think
music,
part of our
people, and our
entertainment is
culture.
the way we cook and prepare the food all over Louisiana.
Now, back to the Great American Seafood Cook-Off. Who can attend this event? I mean, is it just for those high-paid guys like Moon Griffon? Or can anybody? Can I go there on a state legislator's part-time salary and get in? Can I afford a ticket?
It's $5 to get in.
$5 cover.
Next Saturday at 11:30, and we will crown the king or queen right at 5:00 at the convention center in New Orleans. We'd love a lot of people from Bonnie's area to come out and support her. She's going to be her first year competing. She did a great job in winning the crown, and we had to calm her down to keep her on the stage. She was so excited. But she's going to be a great ambassador. And as she travels and does TV shows and promotes the Cajun food, it'll be a great tourism asset for that whole area. So we're excited.
How is the winner going to be selected? I mean, is it if you're using Louisiana shrimp, you got a better chance of some Mississippi shrimp? How's that work out?
Well, for this, the judges come from all over. We have the Food Network personality. We have the founder of Foodie Chats, the deputy editor of Garden and Gun magazine, a restaurant consultant. So we brought in judges from all over so it wouldn't be tainted just to Louisiana. And so it's going to be a fair competition.
So we don't have. So Senate President John O'Leary won't be a judge there for this deal. I know it's in his area.
No, he won't.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about the importance of domestic seafood versus imported seafood? I know that's a big issue for you.
Well, and that's why we still import about 90% of our seafood. That's why I think if we can come and start raising some and working together, we can be a bigger provider across the world. So we still import 90%. We produce, you can tell the difference. And we don't know where a lot of this imported seafood is grown. It's not inspected properly. So, a lot of people don't know they're not eating Louisiana seafood when they eat in a restaurant. Some people say it's Louisiana prepared, but it's really imports. So highlighting the quality difference is what we try to do in these competitions. And that's why we invite people from all over the country. So as we promote Louisiana-grown seafood, we've got supporters from all over the country that support their local grown seafood as well.
Well, Billy, I appreciate you giving us so much great information about the Great American Seafood Cook-Off. Tell us again, what is the date of the event so the listeners can know?
It's Saturday, August the 5th at 11:30 at the Convention Center in New Orleans. And come out and support Bonnie Bro of the St. John Restaurant, St. Martinville. She's going to be a great chef to represent us, and we're real proud of her.
You have any idea if Moon Griffon's going to that cook-off? Would they allow a guy like him in there? Because I know there's a dress code,
he's got
right?
to pay to get in.
Okay, we'll let him know that. Now, look, Billy, while I got you on the air, I wanted to let you know we got the Delcom Shrimp Festival coming up on the weekend of August 19th. If you got some free time in your schedule, we'd love to have you there.
I will do my best to be there. Every weekend I'm at a different festival. I keep saying before I die, I'm going to make every festival. And every year they keep adding new festivals. The Fried Chicken Festival, the Beignet Festival. And that's a great thing about Louisiana. With over 400 festivals, every weekend there's festivals all over the state.
But, Billy, that's such a great problem to have. We've talked earlier. Not only do we have great food, we got great culture, we got great people. The people, Southern hospitality, the people in Louisiana will definitely take their shirt off the back to make outsiders feel welcome here. And that's something I'm very proud of in our culture.
Blake, when I went to Canada, I asked the travel agents and tour operators, why do you send people to Louisiana? And you heard about the music and the food. But overwhelmingly, every one of them had a story about how we treat strangers like family. Where else in the world do we invite Canadians to our backyard to boil crawfish? And he says, y'all give people an experience they don't get anywhere else in the world that we send people. They come home with a memory they don't get anywhere else. That made me so proud to be the lieutenant governor. And that's why our tourism numbers continue to go up. Even with budget cuts, year after year, we've seen an increase in tourism, over $1 billion in taxes now tourists leave here in Louisiana.
What kind of return on the dollar do you see?
That's a 40-to-1 return on investment.
Wow.
For what we spend.
Now, you mentioned earlier, and I know we're running out of time. I'd love to get you on the show again at some point to talk more about funding for your department. But before I let you go, can you tell me, you mentioned something about Moon Griffon fishing. Do you know have any idea where Moon Griffon is? Did you see him on a fishing boat or a shrimp boat?
No, but I'm going to call the state parks when we get off the phone and see if he's fishing in any one of our state parks. So
Brandon's going to, I appreciate that. Brandon's going to email you over a picture. It's going to be a little scary at first when you open up the email, but he's a tall, not that good looking a guy, and he's not the sharpest tool in the shed, but we will send that email over. Lieutenant Governor Billy Nungesser on to tell us about the Great American Seafood Cook-Off. Billy, we appreciate you having you on the show. Thank you so much. We look forward to having you again in the future.
Thank you. Y'all have a great day.
You too, Billy. Welcome back to the former Moon Griffon show, now the Brandon Como show, new and improved. My name is Representative Blake Miguez, the guest host, and we have with us in the studio today the Vice President of the Louisiana Oil and Gas Industry, Gifford Briggs. Gifford, how you doing today?
I'm good, Blake. How you doing?
Now, Gifford, we're going to set up some house rules now. This is a new show. There's one rule. Don't touch Moon Griffon stapler. See this thing right here? Don't touch Moon Griffon stapler. You can do anything, but just don't do that. So how's everything going in the oil and gas industry right now? Give us a current update on what's the state of the industry today.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's we'll kind of have to look at it from a national level, and the price of oil is creeped back up to $48, $49 and over the, last week, which is a good thing. We've got the U.S. rig count is at about 950 rigs, which isn't great, but considering we got down to about 350 rigs, 2 years ago, and we're 495 rigs higher than we were last year. So if you look at it from a U.S. picture of rig activity, while things are nowhere near the 2,200 rigs that we had at our peak here recently, it's not. We made strides from getting out of the bottom.
So my office is off of Highway 90 over there. So I see a lot of the traffic. You see a lot of trucks moving now. Let's talk in perspective of Louisiana. Where exactly, in perspective of Louisiana, what type of activity are we seeing? Is this all Haynesville shale? What about inland and offshore activity? I think there's a misconception about the drilling rig numbers going up. What do the numbers look like inland and offshore right now in comparison?
Right. Well, so when you drill down and you stop looking at the U.S. and you focus on Louisiana, the numbers aren't nearly as exciting. We've got, for the month of July, we averaged, 2 rigs on South Louisiana land, 3 rigs on inland waters, which is down from, 16 to 20 in both of those categories. So we're at all-time historic lows in both of those categories. Offshore 20 rigs is nowhere close to where we want or need to be. And then, there is a bright spot in North Louisiana, and really the Haynesville Shale is providing, the only real growth and opportunity for companies to do business, in Louisiana, and not have to ship their services and their products out of the state, to Texas or, up to the Northeast or North Dakota.
So, Gifford, tell me if I'm getting this right. Oil and gas activity has picked up in other states. What are we doing wrong in Louisiana? I had on appropriations, Commissioner Jay Dorton come in front of us and asked, what's your plan to improve the oil and gas industry? He basically, in so many words, told me, I don't have a plan, but my plan is to wait for the price of oil and gas, the price of crude to go back up, and everybody will go back to work. Is that the mindset of Louisiana policymaking that we should have? Or should we be more aggressive on our looking for a stable tax environment, looking at our regulatory environment, look at our litigation environment? Because I looked at the price of oil this morning, it's somewhere around $50, and that's great because it's come up from 45, lower 40s. That's a little sigh of hope, but we've got a long way to go. We may have to live in a new price environment, which means that we have to make Louisiana very attractive for business. How can we as state legislators improve our policymaking to live in this new $50 crude world?
Well, I think any business that's looking where to make investment decisions, is looking for a couple of things. One, they absolutely want a stable and predictable fiscal environment. We've been dealing with challenges with our state fisc, and then consequently the tax policy that goes along with that, really since about 2009. So we need to stop talking about fiscal cliffs. We need to get to a stable tax environment where we know where we're going to be, not just for next year or 2 years, but for the next 10 years, so that companies know what they're getting into. The legislature, and I think you were one of the co-authors of the bill, passed the bill to bring back an important inactive severance tax incentive, which was a really good step in the right direction. But the biggest issue we've got here in Louisiana, without question, is the legal environment, and that's what's killing us in South Louisiana. Where companies they're too afraid that they're going to get sued for, coastal lawsuits or the legacy lawsuits, and their board of directors and their legal counsel just won't allow them to make investments in South Louisiana.
You have to keep in mind the Acadiana area where we sit, with the area that I represent a portion of, we're not in the Haynesville Shale. most of the jobs in this area are along the coast, whether it's inland drilling or it's offshore drilling or production. These major ports that we have. So, what do we tell those guys out there looking for jobs on the coast? I mean, is there any ray of light at the end of the tunnel? Any sigh of hope? I mean, is this $50 price of oil? Is this something that we can build momentum behind? Do you think we'll see $60 again in the next 6 months?
I mean, I don't. I'm not a very good prognosticator. If I was, I'd be playing the stock market instead of doing what I'm doing. But I mean, look, the pain that we're feeling in Acadiana is real. The oil and gas industry lost 800 jobs last month, according to a report that just came out in the Advocate, and it was the 30th consecutive month that we've seen oil and gas job losses here in Lafayette. But
let me stop you right there, Gifford. I've been reading some articles that seem to reflect that Louisiana's unemployment rate is going down. There are some people going back to work. That's some contradictory information. Are we losing it just in the oil and gas sector, and other different areas are absorbing these jobs?
Well, no. I mean, according to the report in the Advocate, Lafayette lost 1,100 jobs over the year, and Houma lost 2,800 jobs over the year. So when you lose 800 jobs in the oil and gas industry, like Lafayette did, there's going to be other jobs that go along with it that are going to be lost. The restaurant industry, where people aren't spending as much money, the other sectors, you may see those other industries that are associated with that spending.
In Southwest Louisiana, don't we have a lot of construction going on with the LNG plants down there? A lot of construction jobs are starting to absorb, and I hate to say mitigating some of the job loss, because we're still losing jobs.
Yeah, there's no question. Unfortunately, we've got this manufacturing renaissance going on. Otherwise, what the job numbers that we're seeing in South Louisiana would be significantly worse than they are. I mean, guys that work in the oil and gas industry have the ability to take those skill sets, working with tools and being able to weld, and then transfer over to go work for some of these LNG plants where we have, they're looking for people all over the place.
But Gifford, if you're in Baton Rouge and you're inside the rail over there making this tax policy, looking at increased taxes on taxpayers back home, things don't seem so tough over there. They don't realize things are still very much tough in the industry. And these guys working in the industry, I'll give you some examples. I know some people, engineers, they're sweeping the floors in the back just to try to keep on half the pay. We got guys that were HSC directors, were making six figures a year. Now they post-hole digging, doing landscaping work. Another guy, an operations manager for a large offshore company, he'll take any position that's available right now just to keep food on the table. Is that a happy situation to be in, to take a job working 10 times as hard for half the pay? Your wife's got to get another job, and you still can barely make rent and food on your table? It's not all an unemployment number. Don't you agree, Gifford?
Well, without question. And look, and I'll say the only thing that's happy about that is because at least he was able to find a job.
He's very fortunate, but there's a lot of people out there that are not as fortunate. They're moving out of state, Gifford.
Someone lives in my neighborhood was unable to find a job for a long time because he was too qualified to even be an appliance delivery person at Lowe's.
Wow. And
all he was trying to do was find a job that provided the insurance that he needed, but he was overqualified. And so, I mean, there's a lot of people out there that don't have the luxury of finding that job, even though it's not quite the pay that they're looking for.
That's some great points. And Brandon, you know what? If there's any listeners out there, you're having some of these same struggles, and you're working 10 times as hard for half the pay, we're going to take some callers. I want the legislators, I want the governor to hear about the struggles that you have, because I simply don't believe that you can afford to pay more taxes right now. Government needs to get their act together. They need to shrink the size of their spending and run things like your personal household and your business. And we're going to go to break, Brandon.
All right. And again, that number to call is the Hickson Hazard Hotline, 1-844-7-MOON-07. That's 1-844-7-66-6607.
Mind is all around you.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Brandon Como Show, formerly the Moon Griffon Show, but Moon Griffon's missing. Oh, well. My name is Blake Miguez, state representative from Vermilion and Iberia Parish. I'm here guest hosting the show, and I also have here with me in the studio the vice president of the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association, Gifford Briggs. Now, Gifford, if we could wait a moment, I'm going to take a few callers. We have on the line Mr. Larry from Magnolia Crossing.
Larry. Good morning, gentlemen. How y'all doing?
Good morning, Larry. How you doing?
Fine. Look, I have 3 or 4 comments. I own the Louisiana Mud Fest in Central Louisiana. 82% of our clientele is from Alexandria South, and we can feel the effects of what the man is talking about in the oil and gas industry on our business.
So it's flowed down in your business. I mean,
what you talking about? And look, y'all had my hero, Billy Nungesser, on. That man's got more good itis and Carter's got little liver pills. And on our governor and Jay Darden, tell a story. A fellow was following a van truck go out through the hill country, and every once in a while that van would stop, and old boy would run up inside the van, beating it with a boat paddle and screaming and hollering and everything. Did he get back in and go along another little ways? Do the same thing. And that's about the third time that fellow behind him pulled up and said, "Son, what in the name of God you doing?" He said, "Well, I'm only licensed to haul 10,000 pounds. And I got on 20,000 pounds canaries. And if I don't keep half of them flying, I'm going to be overweight when I get to the scale." So that's where our governor's going about it. He's trying to keep everybody flying till he gets to the scale, and then we can't pay.
That's right. Well, Larry, you ever heard of Twitter?
So,
You ever heard of Twitter on the internet, that little deal where you can put your little tweets out? Donald Trump's using it. The Pope uses it.
Yeah.
They got a deal on there They got a deal in there called Republicans for John Bell Edwards. If you go on there, it's all Democrats as followers, and they had a recent report saying its favorability rating is about 58%. But I think that's just among his friends. And more like he's got about a re-electability of about 38%. So that's why he keeps calling them special sessions, because he wants to make sure and get all his 2 terms worth in the first 4 years in office.
Yeah, he's trying to keep half his canaries flying.
That's right. Look, I want the listeners to know just because you don't work in the oil and gas industry doesn't mean you're not affected. The gyms, golf courses, those who have lost members, pest controls who have lost customers, restaurants, etc., businesses like yours, Mr. Lowry, everybody's being affected. The people in Baton Rouge need to understand this because it's the taxpayers' dollars that they're spending. Lowry, appreciate you having me on the show.
Let one more comment.
Go ahead.
I got a 125-acre oxbow here on my place, and I see a strange boat out there, and one of my men was back there, said it had a Ford pickup back there with a Hickson sticker on it.
You think you might have found Moon Griffon?
I don't know. I'm going to have to go look.
You better watch. You might be running your traps.
There you go. Y'all have a great day.
I appreciate it, Mr. Lowry. We got another caller, Mr. Amos from Henderson. Go ahead, Mr. Amos. Mr. Amos?
Hey, Mr. Ames, you there?
Oh, we lost him.
He hung up. Okay.
All right. Well, if y'all have, we have here in the studio with us Gifford Briggs, the Vice President of the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association, here to talk with us a little bit more about the current state of the oil and gas industry. A lot of people still out of jobs in the Acadiana area. It's flown down into the state budget. There's been less money in severance tax collections, income tax, and sales tax collections, and it's causing issues for our state budget. Now, Gifford, let's talk a little bit more about the oil and gas industry. You mentioned something about our litigation environment. And, investments are happening in other areas, but they're not happening in the state of Louisiana. Does that have anything to do with the coastal lawsuits going on right now?
I mean, without question, if you talk to, if you go to some of the shows in Houston, like, NAPE, which is the big prospect expo, and even if you talk to people in and around Lafayette, that getting investment dollars to drill and produce wells in Louisiana is next to impossible, because the people that are making those investment decisions look at everything. They look at the fiscal environment, they look at the regulatory environment, and they look at the legal environment, and there's just too much risk in the legal environment without enough reward at the end of the day. And so they're making those investment dollars in other states where they don't have the legal challenges that we have here.
I mean, these oil companies are in business to make profits. It's great that they're employing people in our districts in the state of Louisiana, but if there's not a certain return on your investment, and 10 years down the road they can get sued for an astronomical amount of money, and it's not happening in other states, why would they invest here? Now, tell us, what is the update? I know the Attorney General and the Governor have been going at it on who has contract signing and approving authority, and that's had kind of slowed down some of the lawsuits. My understanding is the state never got a chance to go forward with their lawsuit, and the local parishes are following instead. Can you give us sort of an update on what's going on there I've heard we had Natural Resource Committee hearings at one point. Oil and gas is the only guys getting picked on. Now, what about Mother Nature, the Army Corps of Engineers? At one point, they said the nutri-rats in South Louisiana would have to seek legal counsel. I mean, who is the state and the parishes suing here? Tell us a little bit more about the lawsuits and where they stand today.
Well, currently there are 6 parishes, and I'm counting Vermilion Parish, which actually isn't parish government, which was the district attorney that filed that lawsuit. But 6 parishes are represented through either one or multiple coastal lawsuits. The governor and the governor has indicated that he would like other parishes in the coastal zone to pursue litigation, and if they weren't able to pursue it, then he was going to pursue it for them. The issue with the attorney general was that the governor was looking to hire some attorneys on contingency fees, and Attorney General Jeff Landry stopped him from doing that. But the attorney general recently did approve a contract that is that follows and complies with Louisiana law that allows for Taylor Townsend to begin representing the state on these in the governor's office on these legal issues. So we are multiple decades, 10 or 20 years away from seeing any sort of legal conclusion to any of these lawsuits.
Now, Gifford, I see we got a few more calls on the line. If you don't mind, I'm going to take a few of these. Go ahead, Brandon.
All right. So right now we've got John out of Bro Bridge wants to talk about the oil and gas industry. John, go ahead on the Hickson Hazard Hotline.
John, how you doing? This is Blake Miguez. We got Gifford Briggs, the expert in the oil and gas industry. What you got today for us?
Yeah, how you doing? This is John Bacon. Well, for 25 years, I was a quality safety and design engineer in the oil and gas industry. The thing of it is, a lot of people need to understand it's not just the workers offshore that this is really affected. All the machine shops that build this equipment, it's a shame because we have the expertise to keep this oil and gas industry moving forward. And it's like we're being thrown to the side of the bus.
John, I agree. There's a whole infrastructure around the oil and gas industry. And what I fear the most is if things ever turn around and come back, and that's a big if and when, we won't have the experienced labor to work in the oil and gas industry. And you know what that means? When you're looking at it from a safety perspective, that means more incidents, more risk. That's not something a business wants to have. Do you have any more comments?
We're being told, well, you need to go back to school and retrain yourself. A lot of us are, in our upper 50s and all this right here. It kind of hurts. But, hopefully it turns around because, Blake, everybody knows that, your the business y'all have, too, is highly affected. And everything. The grocery stores on down.
Well, John, we're going to keep working hard in the legislature and praying that we can get people back to work, and we appreciate your call today. We got another call on the line. Thank you so much, John.
All right, so we got another call on the line. This is Ben from Hornbeck. Ben, go ahead.
Ben, how you doing today? Blake Miguez.
Pretty good. How y'all?
We doing well. I got Gifford Briggs with the Louisiana Oil and Gas Association on the line with us, too.
Yes, sir. I've had to work out of state my entire life. I've very seldom been able to even get a call back on a job here in the state.
Where would you want to work? Would you want to work in Louisiana, or you like working out of state?
I would much rather work in Louisiana. I've lived here all my life.
Because the culture's great here, the food's great, the people's great. We should have you working here in the state of Louisiana, and that's what the message we're trying to get in Baton Rouge is let's spur our economy here and get all our expertise and our good people back working in Louisiana.
Well, thank you, sir.
Well, Ben, we appreciate the call. Thank you so much. Now, Gifford.
Yes, sir.
We only got not much time
30
left.
seconds.
30 seconds. Real quick. Do you have any idea where Moon Griffon is?
Listen, I couldn't even begin to get an idea of where he is, but if he's out there with any of the guys in the oil patch cleaning some pipe, let us know.
Moon, if you're out there listening, please call in and let us know where you're at. And thank you guys so much. It was an exciting time to host the Moon Griffon show. We appreciate it, and we'll keep working hard for you in Baton Rouge. This is Representative Blake Miguez and Gifford Briggs and Brandon Como signing off. Thank you.